What's up, my dude? So where has JSMIA7 been? Oh my god, dude. He has just fell off the face of the earth. Wowzers. So I'm going to start doing like one of these motocross newsy type videos a week or something like that. And I'm going to see if anybody even wants to see that or not. I think some of it's actually pretty interesting. And it's cool to just look at different sides of it and stuff like that. But with the James Stewart 2017 thing, man, that is a really confusing thing that has happened. It just, from the start of it, you know, if you've really been following James Stewart for the past couple years and with the whole suspension thing, I don't really even know what all went down with that, but he just hasn't been the same dude after that. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know what all is going on with that, but it's just not been the same, man. The 2016 season was a disaster, and I don't know what's going on. Like, it just doesn't, to me, just doesn't seem like James Stewart has the want for it like he used to. He just doesn't have the drive for it. And let me just first of all go ahead and say this. I'm not a professional motocross racer. I'm not even close to being a professional motocross racer. I don't know what they go through. I don't know, you know, the ins and outs of it. I've never experienced it. So I'm speaking from a completely, you know, way out here standpoint that's never experienced it. So always keep that in mind. I understand I've never done it before, so it's kind of hard for me to even speak on it. But just from what I'm seeing as a just standard, ordinary person, that's what I'm kind of speaking on here. And it just, to me, it just doesn't seem like he has the love for it like he used to have. It's like, I mean, for instance, even in 2016, I mean, he would have some of the smallest crashes and just pull off the track, and he was done, you know? And I've seen James Stewart crash 5 times that hard and hop right back up and get on the bike and win the championship. You know, it's like, it's just so totally different. You can just see it in somebody's demeanor if they want it or they don't want it. And it just seemed like in 2016, James Stewart just didn't want it like he has in the past. And what's really weird is, like, there at the beginning at like Anaheim 1, I mean, he was running up there top 5, top 3 or whatever when he got hit by Dungey and then hit his head. And I don't know what all that head injury caused. I mean, I've had those before racing, and I know they're freaky and they can do some weird things when you start messing with the brain and stuff. But, I mean, he had a lot of time there, but he still acted the same that whole Supercross season of 2016. He wasn't the same James Stewart. I don't know. It's like, it seemed like if he wasn't running what he thought he should have been, which is, I mean, with James Stewart, it's first place or nothing, you know, your first or your last. So if he wasn't running in first place, it was almost like he was giving up, in a sense, of a lot of different situations. And that where he flipped over, I think that was at Daytona, he just barely flipped the front end over. I mean, God, I just can't believe he would have quit the race. And that was after he had done very similar things like 5 times, you know, before that in the same season. But, you know, we were kind of putting it on the head injury. And then, you know, a long time after that, here we are at Daytona. He loops out the front end and, oh, he's done. It's like, it's like he wasn't fighting for the championship. And I mean, even if you know you're not going to win the championship, you still should fight for it, because that's just what you do in racing. You know, you fight for every single race. You never give up, no matter if it's back in 21st place. I mean, you're trying to finish the race. You know, do not get a DNF. I mean, that is the goal of racing. And I don't know. It just seemed like he didn't have the same drive. It seemed like he was off in La La Land or something. It's just a very weird thing. And I mean, him hitting his head, I don't know how bad that was. I don't know how far that carries over. I don't know how many head injuries he's had in the past, and maybe it's just now catching up to him. I don't know. You know, there's no telling. And what's weird about motocross crashes is, I mean, some of them can look so bad, it looked like the person, there's no way they could walk away from that, and they'll get right back up on the bike. And then you'll have some crashes where they'll just lay it over, and then they're done for the season. It's like, it's so weird how motocross crashes can be like that sometimes. It's just, it's all in the way they land. But it just seemed like every time James Stewart would come back from one of those crashes, or come back from one of those incidents. He just didn't have the fire that we remember. And I think a big part of that is him just not racing for 2 years. I mean, that's a long time to go without lining up behind the gate. It's one thing to have injuries and miss a couple of races there in a year, but you're still like maybe riding outdoors or riding a couple of supercrosses, but he didn't ride nothing for 2 years. And he had never really done that in his whole career, a full 2 years of no racing. So that was like a big shocker and a big change. But so then we got to 2017, and, getting up to it, it was like, that he wasn't getting a ride, and, the whole Suzuki team fell apart or whatever. But what I'm seeing from Malcolm Stewart is what I expected to see from James Stewart. No matter, I don't care if you're Ricky Carmichael or if you're Adam Entignab, you should be out there racing whether or not you're on a privateer bike or a factory bike. I mean, and then that's how you go out there and prove that you're worthy of a factory ride. And I don't care who you are. Like I'm saying, I don't care if you're James Stewart, Chad Reed. If you don't prove anything for like 3 years, you shouldn't expect a factory ride, bud. I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry to break that to you, but if you got to go out there and, be a man on a privateer bike and, get a couple of results to get to your factory ride, then that's just what you have to do. But somebody just not showing up to race and then their brother comes out and races, there's just something finicky. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if he just, refuses to ride on a privateer bike, so he's like, I'm just not even going to the races till I get a factory ride, which I don't know how you just all of a sudden get a factory ride if they didn't want to support you then and you're not even racing, and then somehow, I don't know how the hell that works, but, I mean, just from like a man-to-man standpoint, you should be out there racing. You should be out there doing it regardless of what kind of ride you're on if you want it bad enough. That's what I'm saying. That's what the whole thing about it is. It just doesn't seem like James Stewart wants it. I mean, he said some things in tweets and Instagram posts and stuff like that, but I mean, I hope he changes my mind about it, and I hope he comes out and gets right back to where he was. I really do. I hope he does that. But from what I'm seeing, it's just not pretty. It's not pretty. It's just because when a rider loses their drive, it's like impossible for them to ever get it back, it seems like, because the way the racing is now, you got to be doing it every day, so competitive, on top of your game. It's just not like it was. It's nowhere near like it was when Ricky Carmichael was at the top, in that whole era. I mean, Ricky Carmichael was doing it, but not really, hardly anybody else was doing it to that extreme level. So, but nowadays, I mean, your top 10 dudes are doing what Ricky Carmichael was doing back then. So it's like if you don't do that and you're not tip-top physical race shape and you've raced a lot and you're used to it and all that, you'll just fall back so quick, nobody will even see you. It's just, and that's the cold world now in motocross. You got to be on it and no other option, period. And he came out and won the straight rhythm, didn't he? But I mean, a straight rhythm's totally different. But it all started from that Monster Energy Cup in 2016. Late 2016. He had that one little slip up with, like, I think it was Trey Kennard right there or something. I mean, he just barely slipped down. Barely slipped down. I don't know what kind of injury that would have caused, but he didn't race anymore. And then, so we thought, like, oh, okay. I mean, it's one thing to have one little crash like that and not race. It's like, okay, whatever. So then you come to A1, you have another crash, and so you don't race. Okay, so you hit your head pretty hard. It's like, oh, okay, I understand. That's pretty bad. So then he comes back like 2 or 3 races, whatever, after that, tries to race, and then like he didn't even finish, just pulled off the track, didn't crash at all, just pulled off the track for no reason. That Monster Energy Cup was in 15, not 16. I'm getting a little bit confused with my years here, but 15, he had that slip up with Trey Kennard, then he went into the 16 Supercross season. So he was having all those little weird things happen where he would just pull off the track. So here we are, like 4 or 5 of those weird little incidences where he just gets off the track and doesn't finish the race. And then he does those little slip-ups like at Daytona and does the same thing again for like the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th time in a row. It's just, I don't know, man. Unreal the amount of mistakes, and that's just not. I don't know. Just the weirdest scenario. I don't know what's going on. I have no clue. But James Stewart needs to get it figured out if he wants to continue to do this, because all that's happening is he's getting older, everybody else is getting faster, and if he doesn't get out there on the track and race, factory bike or not, he's going to fall back. You know, he has to get out there, and I respect Malcolm Stewart for getting out there and doing it. No matter if you're getting 8th place or 13th place, at least he's out there trying. You know, he's out there riding. And what's crazy about Malcolm Stewart is he won the 250 championship, didn't even get a ride. Now, that blew my mind. I can't believe. I don't know if I've ever seen that. Somebody win a 250 championship, and then the next year they don't even get a ride on a 450 bike. That's unreal. I mean, there's people that don't even win the championship and get a 450 ride. You know, they'll get like second in the championship and then get a 450 ride. I don't know if those boys was, you know, James Stewart and Malcolm Stewart were just expecting to get this different ride, and then it just didn't happen, you know, right at the last second, or what. It had to be something like that. But I mean, either way, and now here in 2017 is pretty weird, because they were like, okay, so James Stewart's going to come back at round, what was that, like Oakland? He said he was going to come back with Malcolm Stewart. We get to Oakland, and Malcolm Stewart's there, no James Stewart. No James Stewart to speak of, nothing. So then they were like, oh, okay, James Stewart's going to be here at Daytona or whatever. Or, I mean, I think there was even a race before that they said he was going to be there, then he wasn't there at that one. So then they were like, okay, he's going to be there at Daytona for sure. So then we get to Daytona, no James Stewart. So now they're like, oh, well, James Stewart's going to be here sometime in 2017. He'll be back racing sometime 2017. So, we're like, what, 3 or 4 rounds left on the Supercross season? No James Stewart, nothing in sight. You would think if James Stewart was planning on coming back, he'd be like putting an Instagram post like, hey, guys, I'm going to be back here in like a round or two, when he's like for sure coming back. But we haven't heard anything from him. So, I mean, it's just like he fell off the face of the earth. I don't know if he's getting prepared for the motocross season. He's got that kid, and he's doing all that. I don't know, man. It's disappointing, because James Stewart is, I mean, one of the legends of the sport, dude. Like, Scrub came from James Stewart. That's just unreal. I mean, it's like he invented the Scrub. Invented it, dude. I mean, perfected it, made it what it is today. That is just unreal. It's when somebody like reinvents their entire sport like that. I mean, you got to give them props. Period. It's just unreal what he's done on a bike, and I don't know what there is from here, but that's my opinion on it. I hope he gets around to it, and you know, continues to want to do it. It's all in how much want you have for it. If the want's not there, then it's done. It's done. No matter, there's nothing more you can do. You can practice. If you don't want it, it's never going to happen. So I want to let you guys know that I have all of my different playlists on my front page, whether it be game-specific playlist or series-specific playlist. So if you're looking for any particular game or particular series that you want to watch, I have it all laid out there in a pretty organized manner on my front page. And my email address is spencerturley@live.com, no space, no capital. And I do accept sponsorship offers. And you guys should also follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Steam, all that different stuff at Spencer Turley, no space, no capital. There is a link in the description to donate to me if you want to support me, and if you can't or you just don't want to, I totally understand. That's why it's completely optional, but I will be listing my top 10 donators at the end of every single future video, and I will shout out every new donator at the end of a video, even if they're not top 10. So anyways, I appreciate you guys watching the videos. Later, dudes.